If it sounds like I'm, if it sounds like I'm drunk or slurring my words, I'll blame it on my dentures. They're new and I'm still trying to break them in, so I sound a little like this. February 21st, um, we've got aircraft carriers in the Mediterranean heading for the nuclear bristled, nuclear robust Middle East. Because we got to slam our stick on the table and show who's boss, and look at this mighty the majesty and the fearsome power of the greatest military. So check me, correct me if I'm wrong, because I am often wrong, and all four of you that actually watch this. Um, uh, Gee, we've moved all this military hardware from the Pacific, where we were all nervous about Taiwan being vulnerable in Taiwan. So we're going to show this, what defense is for. And defense is, basically to be so intimidating, no one would think of picking a fight with us. That didn't necessarily deter China and North Korea during the Korean War, didn't necessarily preclude Vietnam. But then again, Vietnam was based on some phony baloney premise that we made up about being attacked by the Vietnamese Navy, which was like two fishing boats and a canoe. And some guy, well, I think we might be under attack. I think they may have thrown something at us. I mean, small potatoes compared to what they've done in the Middle East, attacking military boats. I mean, there were several attempts of actual damage to boats, to ships in the Middle East and the Red Sea. But it's good enough for the Gulf of Tonkin resolution to have a premise of getting into a war which costs 50,000 plus American lives, military deaths, and many more in terms of all the suffering and so forth. 1971, financial crisis. Dollar's been overinflated because of our military expenses, and we can't guarantee the price of gold, and we're going to have to delink from gold, and we're going to have a fiat currency to brings us to our $138 trillion. Oh my God, we're 130% of GDP, and how are we going to make the mortgage payments? How are we going to make the interest payments? It's almost as much as what we spend on defense. We can't have that. We can't have interest expense. It's going to be more than what we spend on defense, which is what we spend the most of our money on, is defense. And so, what is defense? Have we actually had a war with another country that's invaded across their borders? We're sacred borders. Is that what happened in World War One? No. Two? No. Pearl Harbor, okay, it was an attack on. That was actually a military base. When we attacked Nagasaki and Hiroshima, Truman's on the world will note that Hiroshima, the first atomic bomb, was on Hiroshima, a military base, which was, Hiroshima was a military base like San Francisco was a military base, in that they had troops stationed there, they had ships there. It was a manufacturing area. Nagasaki's where I think Mitsubishi had the plant and so forth. So brand names that we know now. But were they military bases? I don't think so. In fact, Curtis LeMay, when they were calculating, how we're going to use the bomb, we only got one bomb, let's go for maximum. We can't just have it make a crater. We have to make sure we kill a lot of people. So how do we maximize the death count? Let's see, Japanese build their homes out of wood. Let's use, major incendiary. We want a major incendiary so we have a firestorm. So it gets so hot that stuff will just spontaneously burn. So we'll just have this like weather system of destructive fire that will kill a lot of women and children because, we're going to have the impact. That's our deliberate, calculated, documented attitude. But all right, it's a military base. So is it a military base like an aircraft carrier is a military base? No, an aircraft carrier is kind of military. If you want to have a definition of something that's strictly military, it's going to be an aircraft carrier. Okay, Does that justify well, it's not exactly like the United States has used nuclear weapons. It's not exactly as how we envision the Armageddon is going to be, because it's all, New York and Moscow. No, no, no. This is a military operation, deliberately, unsolicited. It's a deliberate military. We're marching into town. We got all the weapons right here in front of you. So a low-yield nuclear weapon that takes out 2 of our carriers, and Taiwan's on the line because, geez, there's no American assets over here. So, but we're spending $1.3 trillion in defense this year, which is more than the rest of the world combined. I guess that's triple what China's spending, because of the perception that our homeland is going to be, we want to make sure that nobody attacks us, the borders are secure. So we'll have we'll fight our fights elsewhere off our shore, unless, of course, you're Ukraine, and then we'll abandon you. But we'll have other, people fight our wars for us. And so that's how we justify a defense budget. It's insurance for something that hasn't happened, on the perception. But, Russia's paranoid. They always think they're under attack, but we're secure, because we spending ourselves into economic collapse because of that surefire bet that we make that defense is going to work for us. Okay, that's it. That's my blather for today.